Hiya guys, Freddy here. Welcome back to another modern RPG. And this time I would like to present this, which is called SAKE or SAKE. I'm not quite sure the pronunciation. Now it's based on the initials of Sorcerers, Adventurers, Kings and Economics, which are the core sort of concepts of the game. And it's got a Japanese tone. There's shinobi in here and samurai, so I'm guessing it's sake. But to my Scottish eyes, I can't help but see it as sake. It's a phrase we tend to use a lot here instead of for God's sake, for Christ's sake, for flip's sake. We'll just go, sake. And that's what my eye reads it as. Could have been using the accent to make it clear that it is sake, but that's maybe just a cultural thing. Because this is an Estonian RPG. It was written originally in Estonian and has been translated to English using a translator and AI. And it reads through very well. I have to say it reads through better than a lot of English written RPGs you see out there, especially ones written just by a single person. This is by Rainier Kasik Aslav. I apologise if I'm mispronouncing his name. I'm terrible at pronunciation at the best of times. And the translation, as I said, is fantastic. Most of it reads very naturally. There's only one place I can think. It's 250-ish pages long. And I obviously haven't read through every page of it. I've only had it a couple of days. But there's only been one place I've found where it didn't really read through properly. But most of it reads through as if it was written in English. And as I said, better than many English written RPGs. Now this is a modular RPG, just to get over it. It's basically two modules are the big ones. Everything else slots in and you can use whichever modules you want. So there's basically the Sorcerers and Adventurers part of it, which is your standard Dungeons & Dragons type game. You know, you're creating your hero, you're going off questing, you're getting treasure and all that. But then the other large part of it is the Kings and Economics part of it. Because as you get treasure, you can invest those in your lands, which are called domains. And you can build up a castle, you can build up fortifications, cities, little villages, you can build up the trade within that, different manufacturing. All of that is built into the second part of the game. And you can run either independently. If you're not interested in going out and adventuring, you just want to run a game where you are building up an empire, you can play that part of the game. As I said, it's modular and you can decide which you want to do. But together it works out far more similar to original versions of Dungeons & Dragons. If you remember sort of Advanced Dungeons & Dragons and 2nd edition, as you went up levels, you got titles and you got lands. So as a fighter went up his rank, he'd become a lord, a wizard would become an archmagi, a cleric would become a priest, bishop. And they would get, their castle, their wizard's tower, their church. And they could build those up. They'd get followers, which they had to look after, train up, and they became leaders. And that's what this is doing very well. In creating a system where you have these lands, you start off with a small amount and you can fight wars with the neighbouring domains. And your adventures can be part of that as you build up your empire. It's a very, very interesting system. But anyway, let's have a look at the back cover first of all. Basic Rules is a simplified edition of the SAKE Core Rulebook, similar to a Quickstart but longer, 245 pages. SAKE is a crunchy game with several modules. This book allows you to experience the full game, including rules for domain building and playing the domain game, rules for dungeon crawling, adventuring in the wilds, chases and fights. It also covers rules for magic and otherworld, as well as making pacts with gods to channel spells from them. Several of these modules use their own character sheet-like sheets. The domain sheet for the domain game, you can download them when the need arises, as there are links in the modules, or all together as a package. The sheets for SAKE. You can click on that link. The full rulebook will be published after a Kickstarter campaign and will include more abilities, more equipment and magical items, more spell schools, necromancy and psychics, Astianic major gods, and a whole lot of pre-spells, more establishments for the domain game, rules for combat on a company scale and stats for companies, a complete economics module, rules for overseas trade, seafaring, sea battles, ship stats, storms, and so on. And we've got a link to the Kickstarter pre-launch page, which I'll link to down below so you can see it. I'll also link to the Drive-Thru RPG page so you can click on that and get access to this. There's a newsletter, there's a social media. Copyright 2023. So it's last year. Obviously, that's probably when it was written in Estonian and has been translated because it's coming out soon. Inside, well, we've got the same information as we had on the back cover. We've got a title sheet, the basic rules, and then we've got a table of contents. Now, I have to compliment the way this is laid out. The presentation's very pretty, first of all. There's not a huge amount of artwork in it. And what artwork is there is AI generated. If that's a problem for you, it's no problem for me. I'm absolutely fine with it. I think it's a great way of a single author being able to produce stuff. I tend to use it myself. But all of these contents pages are links. So if you want to find the section in the contents page in the PDF, you can just click on it and go straight there. You don't have to look at the page number and flick through. Also throughout, you've got lots of hyperlinks to online sources. So where there's the archetypes, like the Azure Warrior here, not only does it have the information about them, but it's got links you can download a pre-populated character sheet and print that out to play that character. The resources online are absolutely fantastic, and it's a very modern way of presenting it. I wonder what it's going to look like when he prints it out physically. Is he going to remove all these links? As I said, there's a few contents pages there, introduction and core principles. Now I'm going to go through it quite quickly here. As I said, it's about 250 pages long. I think it's 245 pages, but for some reason Adobe Reader's telling me 248. But we've got, it includes a robust system for managing domains and generating adventures around them. System for large-scale battles, abundance of random tables for generating events. Uses standard 7-dice set. Most rolls are made with a d20. And I'll cover that in a rules breakdown later on in the week. I'll go into the core rules of it. Continuing through, we've got the general rules and character creation. Explaining the character sheets, which are quite long. They're 3 or 4 pages. We can download an empty character sheet here, clicking on the link. Assigning attributes, it goes through, creating distinctive personality, finishing character creation, and then we've got archetypes. So we've got the Azure Warrior, Azure Assassins or Azure Warriors, and Warrior Sorcerers. And we can download the character sheet pre-populated as a ready-created version of this character. Ready to play. We've got the Beastmaster, a typical magical skill. It falls under Instinct attribute. Samurai Bureaucrat. And Shinobi archetype. So we've got 4 general classes here or archetypes that we can play straight off, or we can create our characters. We've got the section on character progression, how to spend your experience points. Very early on the rules. I think that's absolutely brilliant, because that's a bit you're going to need quite often. So the rules are very well thought out. We go through the attributes. So we've got body attributes, speed, precision, soul, intellect, instinct. Skills and their uses. Basically, you're rolling a d20, you're adding bonuses from the skill and the attribute, and you're trying to match a target number. You've got the difficulty levels here, basically between 5 and 30. Natural 20s and 1s work a little oddly. When you roll a natural 20 or a 1, you roll on a percentile critical hit or critical fail, which can just modify your roll up or down, or it can have no effect. I find it a little odd that you're not just rolling another d20 and adding it. But we've got skills based on the attributes. So athletics under body, axes and maces, spears, different weapon ones under speed, stealth skills under precision, bows, civilian weapons, medicine under intellect, etc. Lots and lots of skills. Soul skills have to be bought separately, more on soul skills in the sorcery module. Social skills, wilderness skills. Then we've got abilities. Now, these are extra things that you would be buying by spending experience on them, or, of course, you can add them in character generation. So you've got a character with extra reflexes, +1 to reflexes, they get +1 to their parrying, they can read and write in all languages they speak, etc. So you can customize your character beyond just a bunch of stats and a bunch of skills. There are a lot of these in here. Combat related ones, abilities for rulers and chancellors. Then we're on to the section on equipment and goods. So we talk about money, silver denars, gold denars, copper denars, basically your versions of your gold pieces, etc. Selling and buying goods, a general map of the region, and we'll get a more detailed map later on. Different metals that can be bought, different types of armor, weapons, go through all that. Weapon groups, so different weapons. As I said, it is Japanese tone, so we had the samurai and the shinobi, and we've got katanas here, nodachis, hook swords, as well as other things. Swai handler, tanto, trident daggers, sword breakers, but we've got rapiers. So a wide variety of different things. Carrying on through, lots and lots of different weapons, bows, crossbows, firearms, civilian weapons, grenade-like civilian weapons, martial arts weapons. Then we're on to armour, heavy armour, shields, basic equipment for travelling, tools for adventurers, services, so how much a meal in a tavern costs, horses, carriages and equestrian equipment, different draft animals, saddles, magical items, lots of those. We've got drugs for sorcery, including cannabis, magic mushrooms and opium, which I found amusing, but more sort of fancy ones as well. We've got simplified systems, so the cost of an expedition. You can just pay out a general amount and you get a large set, a tent for 2 people, a sleeping bag, water skin, flint and steel. So you don't have to go and buy things individually, you just buy a set of things. We've got wages for NPCs if you're recruiting a master craftsman or getting a samurai to act as a follower. Novice adventurers to solve problems. And then we're on to the adventurers module. So this is the main module for doing adventures. And we've got stuff here, preparation and expedition sheets, expedition leaders, hazards and opportunities, movement speed, playing the expedition, movement speeds, individual activities. You know, you can send people out to gather food as you travel, hunting, mapping things out, the hazards and opportunities, whether you're climbing things, all the standard rules for travelling around the wilderness in an RPG. Very, very well fleshed out. Weather forecasting, natural phenomenons, hazards and opportunities for the game master. And we've got lots of tables here. Natural obstacles, dangerous creatures, issues with NPCs, accidents, fatigue and illness, useful NPCs, pleasant events or discoveries, resources or treasures, opportunities against a dangerous creature, strange occurrences. And then we're into the module for dungeon crawling. Well, this is part of the adventurer sort of module, but we've got dungeon sheets where basically we can generate a dungeon on the fly. Or ahead of time, kind of randomly. So we've got the structure, dungeon mapping, hazards and opportunities, the dungeon game master sheet. We've got point crawl, linear, so scripted encounters as we go through a linear dungeon. Quantum crawl, where it's a map with various events going on, and we're giving lots of options for running dungeon adventures in different ways. And random hazards and opportunities in dungeons, obstacles, spike traps, secret doors and other things, dangerous districts, selecting secrets. And then we're on to the combat section, which is a bit crunchy, but it's not too bad. But if you're used to the simplicity of Dungeons & Dragons, you're probably not going to find it here. I tend to prefer very streamlined, simplistic systems, like the Star Wars D6 system, where I don't have to open a rulebook during play. I can just run it all from memory, and that's the kind of game I like to run, where I don't have to think about the rules much. I can bother about running my adventure. Now, I can't see myself doing that with this game. There's lots of stuff I would keep having to look up. But if you like a crunchy game with lots of details in it, this could very well be for you. And where the game is very crunchy later on in the Kings and Economics section, that's what I like, because generally that will be happening between game sessions when you've got time to look things up and prepare it. But anyway, carrying on through, health points, injuries, and death. Death, it makes a very strong point about if your character dies, their soul might depart or it can linger on, so it can be accessed. Well, we've got types of actions. As I said, it's quite a crunchy system where there's different types of actions, and depending on what you do, people can react to it, because everybody gets an action and a reaction. And only if somebody does an action which can trigger your reaction can you get that reaction to deal with them. So, in a Dungeons and Dragons term, it'd be like attacks of opportunity. If somebody moves past you and you get a chance to strike them as they go past. But this covers a much wider range of things. So attacks of opportunity, or reactions rather, can be made against people when they are doing a much larger range of opportunities. It also details out stuff like when you are making your reaction, you can't do things that you would do in your action. For instance, before you make an attack as your action, you can swap a weapon. So you can swap between using a bow and a sword. But as a reaction, you're only allowed to use the weapon in your hand. You can't swap out the weapon, which I think is an interesting thing. We've got critical hits here, combat maneuvers, defensive stances, called shots, against different sized creatures, so small creatures up to gigantic ones, weapon breaking strikes, different combat situations like fighting on horseback, fighting in darkness, throwing unranged weapons, morale in battle, chase rules, very nicely detailed out. We've got social rules here, so persuasion. Then we're onto the sorcery module, so if we want to include magic in our game, we've got all the rules for that. The otherworld, which is a tandem world which exists in alongside the real world, where spirits kind of go on to. Mages can send themselves into that realm and access it. Soul combat as a soul and death, loss and recovery of soul hit points, death in the aftermath, ancestral spirits. Just lots of stuff about sorcery, with it having this other world, kind of like the astral plane in Shadowrun, I suppose. We've got different things here: blessing of Diogenes, heroine's despair, curse of Morpheus, drug addiction. We've got the magic, how that works, beast mastery, pass without trace as part of their abilities, astral projection, different abilities with that, restoration, like that picture a lot, including various healing abilities, soulcraft, types of electric or weapons, gods, religions, and channeling. So different religions in the world, assuming the role of as god as a GM, deities of the world, theology spells, self-powered spells, pacts from lesser gods, lots of different magic in here. And then we're on to the Kings module. So this is presenting us with the world. It goes into Sake's homeworld. The Astianic world derives its name from the Astianic nation that colonized the shores of the vast ocean, simply known as the ocean. We flick over, we've got people of the world, the geography. So we've got the Astians, the Zohari, the Tauri. We've got a map of the world split across a couple of pages here. Nope, I'm not going to be able to pronounce that. Rhodix, Kali or Orenix. And then we're on to the domain rules. So we've introduced the world, but now we can get the Kings module with the domain rules on how to control your land. So if we're using the Kings section, the Kings module, instead of just delving into random dungeons and going off to small towns, we're actually building up the terrain around. So domain ruler and domains council, positions and leadership skills of domain chancellors, the domain turn, starting the main game and building it, land, topography and fertility, terrain type and fertility dice, mineral resources, land ownership, population. As you can see, it's a very detailed system going into a lot, which would be fantastic for this side of things. Whereas I'm against crunch at the tabletop, and I'm slightly problematic with the way this game would require you to keep looking up the rules for critical hit tables and all that kind of stuff. I like this very much, that you can go into it. 25% of society belongs to free castes, and we've got nobility, domain military capability, domain size, the market capacity, the capital city, palace, establishments, villages, coffee, and serfdom. Other incomes and expenditures, you can make money off customs and taxes. You've got expenditures, so you've got corruption will lose you money. Ongoing events of rivals and allies. The domain's otherworld. So not only do you have the domain, but it's got this parallel dimension next to it as well. Microdomains, aka noble estates. So even if you're not owning a country, as a relatively high level character who's getting some money in, you might just own an estate. And it handles all that, so there'll be a microdomain population. Chancellors of microdomains. Playing the domain game, we go into the details of how this is handled. And lots of random tables for events which will happen in the domain turns. So you can have items of different corruption. Vagabonds have established a village on your land. What else we got? Prosperity. Miners, hunters, or scholars have discovered an untouched necropolis of an ancient culture on your lands. So there's interesting stuff which can lead into adventures. Discontent. Republicans or even democratic ideas are spreading amongst the free castes. So you being the king will be wanted out because they want to form a republic. What else we got? Time of troubles, famine, plagues, random tables for that. We've got domain actions, what you can do as a domain. So bread and circuses, chancellors can organise large festivities where free food and alcohol is distributed to improve the morale of the people. You've got strategist actions. You can establish institutions. You can have military villages, convert tenant villages into military villages, train professional military units, mobilise the militia. The High Magistrate can create production villages, advertise the domain, collection of taxes. The Land Magistrate can establish villages as well. Create institutions, training of Azure warriors, training of shinobi. Archpriests can reconcile with the nature deity or anger the nature deity. Bless the domain. Curse the domain. And then we've got different types of establishments. So road networks, unpaved, paved, village temples, taverns and inns, mill network, archives and tax office, tenant villages, military villages, production villages, agricultural villas, horse breeding villa, vineyards, tobacco plantations, cotton plantations, paper mills, vodka distilleries, mine shafts for gold, silver, copper, iron, tin. You can have fortresses, so a small tower, a large fortified house, a cannon tower, North Thefton Tower Castle, with some plans for one. Wooden or earthen palisades, stone walls, moats, gate towers, bronze gates, bastions, barracks, granaries, mints. This is an absolutely massive part of the game. Hippodrome. What else we got here? Ruler's Palace. You can have a park, art galleries, traps, bodyguard units, magical defense systems. You can have a spy net, so your spy's going out on everything. And then we are getting right towards the end where we are getting onto NPCs and monsters. So we've got Ashigaru, Rural Samurai, Syndicate Masters, Ronin Mercenaries and Elite Samurai, Wolves and Dire Wolves, Jaguar and Leopards, Wyvern, a Tauric Wyvern Knight, Ice People with magical abilities. We've got Otherworldlings and Undead, the Pelong, the Ilomba, Goblins. Now, I first looked at this page and I was like, that goblin's hiding well, I cannot see it. But it's a double page spread just presented in the PDF as a single page. So there's the goblin, which looks goblin-like but hairy. I think that's kind of a cool look. We've got kobolds, which are dead souls. And that's us at the back of the book. That's us gone through the 250 pages. So there is a lot in there. I am very, very impressed with all of it. If you like crunchy rules, I definitely think there's something in here. It's not to my playstyle, okay? But the Kings and Economics bit is absolutely fantastic. I am so impressed with this. As I said, I'll put the links for everything, so the Drive-Thru RPG, so you can pick up a copy, the Kickstarter, so you can help support it if you want to see more of this, and I will do a rules breakdown later in the week where we go through the basic rules. Obviously, I'm not going to cover a tiny fraction of what's in here because it is such a rules-heavy game. But anyway, I think I've whittled on for quite long enough as usual, so thank you very much for watching. But as always, most of all, you look after yourselves. And I'll catch you later. Bye now.